Hi, my name is Joseph. In my video today, I'm going to show you how to draw a grid on HTML canvas like the one that I'm having here. A very beautiful grid where you can be able to plot a polygon. And in this grid, you'll be able to see that it has a margin. It has small squares that are not very visible, and it has big squares. And each big square has 5 small squares. So this is the kind of a grid that I'm going to show you how you can be able to draw it using JavaScript. So for you to be able to do this, you need to have some basic knowledge on how to use HTML to create a HTML page or a browser page. You also need to have some basic knowledge on how to use JavaScript, how to draw graphics, simple graphics using on Canvas using JavaScript, and do some JavaScript loops. Like in this case, I'm going to use for loops. And if you have that knowledge, then you're good to go. This video is going to help you know how to draw a grid on Canvas, HTML Canvas. So I've decided to use simple applications that you already have. For example, you only need to have a text editor. For my case, I'm using Notepad++. And what the next thing that you need is a browser. You can use a browser, like in this case I'm going to use Firefox, which is very much common, so you do not require to have any complicated application for you to be able to prepare that canvas grid. So let us begin. To begin with, I have a HTML page here. I've just drawn, scripted some basics. It has a body, it has a head and title and so forth. So this is where I'm going to have my script that is going to show you how to make a canvas. So first of all, if I learn what I already have here, it's not going to have anything. If I launch it in Firefox, you'll find that the browser is just showing a page that is not having anything. So I'm going to add now onto this page that canvas with a grid using the scripts that I'm going to have in my notepad here. So therefore, to begin with, I have my canvas here. It has an ID grid. This is the grid that the ID that I'm going to use in JavaScript to refer to this canvas. And then it has a width of 610 pixels and a height of 610 pixels. It has a border which is green in color. The reason why I've chosen 610 units, I want my canvas to be 600 pixels. The 10 here is going to be used for the for the margin. The left margin is going to be 5 pixels, the right margin 5 pixels, top margin 5 pixels, and bottom margin 5 pixels, like that. And if we launch this again, now you can see my canvas is already showing without bounders. So I've decided to use that boundar there so that you can be able to see that border, so that you can be able to see where my canvas reaches on, or where it is being shown on this browser, Firefox browser. Now we proceed from there. I'm going to have now my JavaScript. That is where I'm going to have my JavaScript codes or scripts. Now I have a variable here, CNV, which is going to hold my canvas, which has an ID grid, and then have my context, which is now going to help me draw two-dimensional graphics on my canvas. Then I'm going to start drawing smaller units, and I'm going to use the for loop to be able to draw the smaller units. And there is my for loop that is going to help me draw my smaller units on the grid. Now in this for loop here, you will be able to see that I'm using I'm starting with a variable I that is starting from 5 all the way to 605. These are the units of the canvas. I'm starting with 5 because I want to leave a margin of 5 pixels on the left no, sorry, on the top, at the top, because I'm okay, so it's top and left, and also right and bottom, and 605 because I want to leave a margin of 5 pixels. And then you look at this part here, my I is being incremented by 6 units. And now 6 units means that I'm going to divide the 600 pixels that I'm going to use for my grid by 6 to make 100 units. So I'm going to have a grid that is having smaller units made up of 100 small grids, small squares. So then here I have vertical lines. How am I doing the vertical lines? I have context move to I5, line 2, that is I'm drawing lines that are beginning from the coordinates I for values of I ranging to 5 to 605, and I 605, that is going to draw the vertical lines on my canvas. And then my horizontal lines, again you have the coordinates there. Then I have the stroke color that is going to make my smaller squares not very, they're not going to have a very good contrast, because I don't want them to obstruct the object that is going to be drawn on that grid. And then finally I have stroke. If I replay now this, or like if I launch this in Firefox, now this is what I'm going to have. You can now see the small squares are being shown there. I have the vertical lines, I have the horizontal lines, I have a margin 5 pixel at the top, 5 pixels on the left, the right, and so forth. Now this grid now is not complete, almost complete. What is missing is just the big squares. The small squares are already there. So I go back to my notepad, and now I proceed to draw the major units. Now here in the major units, I'm going to begin path drawing again, because I don't want the stroke style that is being used here to be used again here, or I don't want to use the stroke style that I'm using here to affect the smaller grids that I have here. So that is why I'm having this right here, context begin path. And again I have another for loop to draw the major units. You can see now I have a variable I beginning from 5 to 605 for my canvas to leave a margin of 5 units. But now the increment here has changed. Instead of 6 units, I'm having 30 units or 30 pixels. So I'm going to have 20 divisions in my canvas. And previously, you remember with this squares here, small units, it had 100 divisions, but this one here I'll have 20 divisions. So it means that one big square will have 5 units. So again here I have vertical lines for the major grids, horizontal line for the major the major units, and then I have the stroke has changed to make the major units have a more pronounced color that can be clearly seen to show the division of the 5 smaller units. Now if I launch this again on my browser, you'll be able to see now that my canvas is complete. It has a big units with smaller units inside in a margin all around the canvas like that. Now this is what I wanted to show you, how to draw the grid on HTML canvas using JavaScript. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to draw the x-axis, y-axis, do the tick marks, and finally come up with a polygon on this grid. And it's going to be very smart how you can draw a plane figure on this kind of grid using JavaScript, just like we have done here. So if you like my video, you can share, subscribe. I'll be very much happy to meet you again in my next video. Thank you very much.